Welcome to our South African roots. This little village structure also has opportunity for resources, water and electricity. Needless to say, the power station Eskom will need to be privatized and they will need to be left to their own devices to figure out how to get out of the mess that has been created. Government will probably still get a stipulated amount, however, they cannot have their fingers in every single business's pie going forward. Small tax amounts, sure, but crippling their own country's people will no longer be accepted. Hydro stations will need to be built. This means we would need clean supplies of water, perhaps looking towards Cape Town for the initiative that had turned seawater into drinkable water and seeing whether that isn't a viable option, or additionally borehole water filtered. I'm sure the companies will be able to best advise on how the hydro stations work and what they will need to operate. General water supply and upkeep to infrastructure is where the government will need to focus once decentralization has occurred. The addition of water tanks on RDP housing will also help reduce the strain on the water supply system. However, within the little villages structure, they will need to be boreholes as additional backup for water supply to refill water tanks in periods of water shortages. Internet and cellular. It is the companies partaking best interest to ensure that every little village structure has access to internet, and alongside that, its employees have functioning cellular devices. This point will be later discussed more in depth. However, it will contribute to the marketing, educating, and boosting and creating jobs that the little village structure relies on. Banks. If the land is to be rented, built upon, and employees are to be employed, there's an opportunity for banks to host this money and gain new clientele from corporations that will need the employee salaries to be hosted and profits to be kept safe. Investment companies. The entirety of this guide is an attempt to empower both as many companies while incorporating varied types and amounts of companies to increase the diversity and ensure that the country's citizens are becoming less dependent on the government system, while creating maximum employment. Land is being rented, builders are building, and banks are hosting funding. There is an opportunity for investment companies. Every employee will need to have a pension fund or retirement fund to become less reliant on the government pension scheme. The more people we have less reliant on the government's paycheck once retired and while unemployed means more money can be used for alternative causes. The percentage saved will be increased yearly by the companies hiring to ensure a nest egg for their employee. The structure of these pension funds should include stable or balanced funds created by the bank involved in the specific little village structure, the investment company involved, and perhaps a new fund created to support all the other businesses joining the little village structure endeavor. An example of how funding could potentially be distributed would be 35% into the investment company's balance fund. In this example, it's going to be 35% into Allan Gray Balanced Fund, 35% into the bank that is joining in the little village structure. This example is going to say 35% into Nedbank Balanced Fund, and then 30% into the fund created to support the little village structure, which will be further discussed below, along with how to implement the little village structures and what they look like, which is going to come up in my next video. Thanks guys. Thanks for watching.